The Bible tells us that when someone sees another person doing well, it motivates that person to do better, work hard, to be more innovative and succeed due to what? Envy through competition. Today, I'm going to show you that while envy and competition can be bad, it can also be good, and that it allows us to fairly and morally compete, moving past the road of least resistance to the state of challenge and success. Let's get started. Everybody, welcome back to Reason for Truth. I'm your host, Stevie Garofalo. Truth comes first. We're going to give you that truth today biblically. Reasons come last, but we're always and constantly learning. If we stop learning, we stop teaching, or at least stop teaching well, and God does not want that. Neither do you. Listen, competition is not unbiblical at all. Neither is the desire to make money, and the working hard is where we overly work or we compete dirty with others. That's wrong. Where do we go, for these things? In other words, how do we compete rightfully? And where should our focus be on these temporal things? How do we handle all that? I would say success, power, and money are very difficult things, especially for Christians to manage and not get a hold of them because they're very luring. So the truth is that success, wealth, and competition and power can also be destructive, but that can also be good, right? These things have limitations on how much value we are to place on them, and understand that they're tools. They're things we're called to steward for God's good, not our own. But we can still enjoy them on our own. All right, we can have a beach house if that's what we want, as long as we use it for God's glory and allowed to serve others in the name of Christ. And power is good. So is prestige and wealth and success that we have achieved and want to achieve. Make sure we do it not for selfish ambition alone, right? We want to make sure we use those things to help others. This is what Solomon, again, the most powerful, successful, competitive, and wealthy person at all the Bible said during his earthly reign in Ecclesiastes. Remember, at the end of his life, he wrote that, looking back at all the years, so he can see he's already done there, been there, got, as they say, got the t-shirt. And this is what he writes. Then I saw that all the toil and all skill and work come from a man's envy of his neighbor. This also is vanity and a striving after the wind. The fool, on the other hand, folds his hands and eats his own flesh. Better is a handful of quietness than 2 handfuls of toil and striving after the wind. Now, these seem to say two different things, right? One is saying, hey, listen, if you work real hard, that's vanity. If you don't do anything, you're going to eat your own flesh. Well, it's found in the middle. And we're going to talk about, that's what Solomon's going to tell us and what we're going to talk about today. Solomon makes clear that we are to pull back at times and submerge ourselves in quietness in the Lord, in his word, and in prayer, and in his presence, and even if it's in his creation, sitting outside and thinking of God and all he's created and delighting in that. He likes that, and praying to him. And in life in general, like the Sabbath, right? We're to pull back and let our mind rest and our hearts rest. And if that costs us a little money or time, remember, time is money in the United States, certainly. Well, let some of the money and time go. You'll be worth it. And that's what God asks us to do. Solomon shows us that the skilled workers who are motivated by competition is a good thing until he or she becomes a workaholic for nothing. On the other hand, verse 5 pictures a person who's kind of opposite. He's the fool or sluggard who does not work at all. And they end up real poor, eating themselves. We don't have too much of that in the United States because we've been so wealthy. We've just been printing up so much money. Everybody has stuff. Welfare people get not only a house and food, but also get, in some cases, cars. Isn't that weird? Not many, but some do. And phone. Just about everybody gets a free iPhone. All right? Crazy. The biggest, so why would you go to work? There, you don't have to. You can just live that way. And then you can go panhandle on the corner, and that's tax-free. And then you get health care for free as well. So you see, the rest of us are getting taxed to death while all these people are compensated not to work. The biggest tragedy is the waste of human skill, though. We see that a lot in the minorities, especially the African-American community, I believe, who were held down. They were held down for all they could have achieved over history. And that's of the past, but now they're coming up. So are Latinos, and so are white people, and Italian people, all kinds of people, Asian people. They're all rising to the top based, and that's what is great about America, that you have an equal chance to realize your potential and your value. But I would submit, you got to keep that within biblical values. No matter what culture you come from, you must understand this country is, and the opportunity here is because God sees all people equal. So I pity poor welfare recipients, and I pity white-collar welfare people, namely government employees coming from the D.C. area, because they're paid to do mediocre work. You go to the DMV, yeah, I guess that's a different story. I mean, while those people, most of them don't look happy. I mean, I wouldn't look happy if I worked in the DMV, but man, I tell you, that's one job. They put up with a lot of stuff, I'll say. So I would, they can't really get away with doing nothing. They could certainly be more efficient. That's not always their fault. That's just basically government culture. Sadly, government workers submit themselves to an environment, though, that conditions them to work less or not work at all. When we live a life, then we see that we have no challenges. Our fleshly desires seem to take us down a road to less resistance, and people like that. They get lazy, sit on the couch. When you don't have any kind of resistance, when you don't have fear of being fired or demoted, losing your job, it makes you more just lazy. Why would you do any better if nothing's expected of you? It's kind of leaders without, it's kind of like subjects without a leader. The government in our modern age denies its employees the opportunity to be challenged or let go, from their job for underperformance. So the government does a simple job, and that's pretty much what they do. You're hired to do a simple thing. You're not really, in many, not all, but most government agencies, they're just paid to do one thing. And, a lot of times they're done with their work in an hour or so, maybe 2 hours. But in the process, that denies government workers the goodness of becoming all that God created them to be, all they can be. To achieve greater things, to fulfill God's mission for them is dictated really in the Garden of Eden. It said for men, certainly, and those who work are going to be by the sweat of their brow. Okay, and as a result, Solomon says they end up lazy, fruitless, consequently eating their own flesh, as the Bible says. And as a result, meaning that they're going to starve to death, and if they don't give them fruitless welfare of any kind, right? Including getting paid not to work. That's a big problem. So the bottom line is there's no rewards for us in our labor outside of a simple job if you don't have any mission and you're not challenged. So the bottom line isn't, but then if you work too hard, then you're going to get unbalanced and you're going to become a workaholic. So what's the solution? Well, it's found in Ecclesiastes 4:6, which gives the happy balance, saying, better is a handful of quietness than 2 hands full of toil and striving after the wind. You see, when you see both God, and the Bible, by the way, does that. A lot in the wisdom literature will say this. They'll say, this is dark and this is light. This is good and this is bad, right? Or good and evil. So that's what God does through, with Solomon, through Solomon here. And he's saying, listen, you don't want to be a workaholic, but you certainly don't want to be a sloth either. So you want a balance of those. And that's up for us to decide. God's not going to, because God can't tell you, he can, but he's not going to create a robot out of you. He wants you to have free will to choose that. So when you see both God and his will for your life and a good balance between success and hard work and seeking God's will for your life, you're going to end up happy, I think, much happier. You're going to have challenges. You're going to have some pain. You're going to have some competition. But I don't think you're going to find that in the government, in most government agencies, overwhelmingly. But success is a great feeling of achievement. And also when you find a handful of quietness, take advantage of it. So let go of the toil, get rebalanced. And when you see others doing well, listen, it's going to motivate you to be more competitive, but be competitive in a rightful way. Don't steal their stuff. Don't, sneak in. Get innovative. Come up with your own. Work hard. Work harder. And that's what makes things better. It's what makes automobiles better. Makes cameras that I'm filming on better cameras because there's competition, right? We all compete. And that's what makes for a better world for everyone, folks, because as we all get better, we produce better things. We serve God in a better world, in a better way. And you're not going to find that seeking the path of least resistance. It's the way it works. Let's get in the word see and determine for yourself. This is a daily battle, right? And most of us want to just eat the cheese and then lay on the couch and go, that was good. Is a balance between that, okay? That's why I always say on Monday's the worst day for me. And I say, but you know what? Without Monday, be no Friday. Huh? Makes sense? Talk to a guy who's retired, does nothing. I say, what's it like? Oh, I love it. I don't think he loves it. Guy's gained a ton of weight, and he says to me, hey, Steve, every day is Sunday. Every day is Saturday except for Sunday. I think that would drive me crazy. Anyways, make sure you tuned in, subscribe to this channel, and do a couple things. Not only subscribe to this channel, bam, Goncio, just knock that Goncio, Italian right hook, Goncio Sinistro, knock that subscribe button, and then join my community. Stephen Garofalo, there's a paywall there. You can get around it. It'd go and come in for free. And then if you like what, then you could support us. But then just come in for free. Want to see you no matter where you are in the world. So let's make sure that we're working hard, but we balance that. Stop to smell the roses, they say. So God's blessings to you. Let's stay biblical. I'm your host, Stevie Garofalo, and this is your Reason for Truth for today.